All right, let's look at a dumb assertion today by Thomas Piketty. Thomas Piketty, by the way, is in the process of having his little theory on inequality being refuted by somebody who's 26. Pretty embarrassing when you're this big-name economist and a 26-year-old is kind of refuting you. Anyway, he has very inaccurate information, and his writing is why it ever got attention. Well, actually, with the media, it's bad news. So that's why it got attention. But he's not a very smart individual. So let's look at how he doesn't understand economics. He says, one of his new claims is that student loan debt is the enemy of meritocracy in the U.S., which is a blatant lie. So this video is going to make all of the students with student loans mad, rightfully so. You should be a little ticked off. They want their bailout at taxpayer expense. But the irony is student loans and college costing a lot of money, the rising cost of college, is a market signal. And a lot of young people aren't listening, and so are a lot of parents aren't listening. So let's talk about this signal, okay? Piketty misunderstands economics, and he misses that education becoming more expensive is a market signal, okay? Let's talk about a couple of those examples. Number one, colleges are wasting students' money and providing little value in return. What is college athletics? Oh, it's really great. I know we're going to spend more money on the University of Alabama or whatever it is. Okay, well, we don't need college athletics. We simply don't, right? They're not producing any wealth. It's consumerism. And consumerism is something that's going to have to start going by the wayside. America's going to have to produce more, okay? You will have sports, but colleges should not be spending the budgets they are on these coaches and these institutions, these athlete facilities, right? They just shouldn't. And that's the problem. They're wasting a lot of students' money. There's all kinds of examples in this, but anybody who works at colleges and who've left will tell you how much waste. I briefly was a tutor at a college, and just the waste that I saw, it was unbelievable. Many degree paths are unneeded. We don't need theology degrees. We just don't. You want to be an expert on the Bible or the Quran? Read it. I mean, there's all kinds of resources like, what is it, Strong's Numbers, which is for the Bible. You can read that. You don't have to have a degree in theology, okay? The most useless degree to get is theology, okay? We just don't need these degree paths, period. They don't produce anything for society. They're unneeded. Literature, most literature is unneeded. Oh, I'm well-versed in literature. No, you're a moron. You're just distracted. You're not focusing on reality and the problems that we're facing. Also, the other thing that colleges teach, which is really corrupt, it is not about who you know, and this corruption is declining. There used to be this statement that it's about who you know, not what you know. In a world which problems don't exist, that's true. But look, for instance, Elizabeth Holmes is the case in point who came up with Theranos, or the molecular 3D printing. It's not about who you know at all. I mean, that right there is a solution to a major problem. You know, anytime someone tells me, oh, I can't get a job, I can't, it's like, you're not a solution to the problem. That's why. Become the solution, and all the other stuff stops to matter, right? By the way, a lot of companies that hire, they don't have problems. You don't want to work for them anyway, okay? So if a company doesn't have a problem, then you don't want to work for them. Okay, but if they have a really bad problem, they don't care about who you know. See, this is the problem. This is what colleges are teaching that's inaccurate. It is not about who you know. And anytime my friends come to me or they try to get me to get them a job, I'm not going to help them out, right? And I don't help them out because they need to get out there and they need to find from the marketplace what it is. And most successful people I know don't help their friends get jobs. That's not what you do. Those aren't real friends anyway. Somebody's using you for that reason. They're not your friend. Because college costs are rising, let's think about some questions. Will students continue to take $100,000 or more? This risk getting degrees in theology, women's studies, or jet skiing? I'm not kidding that jet skiing is a major. Like, what? My dad was telling me that, what is it, it's the University of Florida or some university offers, or maybe it's water skiing. Anyway, it's just insane. It's like, this is not a major. This is a problem, right? This is invented. You're going to spend $80,000 getting a degree in jet skiing or water skiing. I mean, for $100,000, what about $200,000? Now remember that when college is free, college is not free. It's coming from the taxpayers. If you're a taxpayer, do you want to pay $200,000 a year so that students can go take water skiing? No. The new poor, right? These are the new poor people. Right? The people with degrees in theology, women's studies, jet skiing, or whatever, water skiing, right? It signals to others, don't waste your time or money. Now, there's young people right now that are like, I'm not going to go to college. Good. Because we don't need more college graduates. We got too many of them as it is. By the way, college wages, Zero Hedge pointed this out, and they're right about this. Even Paul Krugman warned that this was going to happen, are stagnating. Yeah, we don't need more college graduates. If you're going to go into medicine, your wages aren't going to stagnate. It's going to be good. That's right now what's worth it. Would you take $100,000 to go into medical industries where you're going to be getting paid $180,000, $190,000? By the way, it's not just doctors anymore. One of my friends, what was it in the term anesthesiologist, and he was getting the equivalent of a master's degree in there, knowing that he was going to get paid about $160,000 to $170,000 a year. And because he already had some medical experience, he was able to work at the hospitals, and they were funding it as well, right? That's the market responding. Notice what the market's doing. But we need more of these positions. There's all kinds of those opportunities. If you want to go get a job where there's going to be a 30% labor demand, according to the BLS, it's very good. But I'd be very careful about going into tech. Engineering will always be necessary, but tech is in a huge bubble. And then these degrees, like theology, women's studies, jet skiing, water skiing, whatever it is, okay? Will some young people be deterred from college and look elsewhere at what they can do? We need more blue-collar workers and what I call remigration in the U.S. Remigration is people from California migrating more to, and New York and Florida migrating more to the Midwest. Tennessee has a lot of work demand, Nebraska, North and South Dakota. But the fact is that when someone tells me, well, I'm living in California because it's cool to do, okay, well, that's not responding to the market. And that's not sustainable. And that's going to lead to a bigger collapse because we actually need this work to occur. What's going to happen is the people on those coasts are going to get poorer, the people in the Midwest are going to get richer. This is already happening. I predicted this a couple of years ago to some bankers. I was like, you want to invest in the Midwest because people on the coast are just idiots. They need to start remigrating back to the Midwest. They're not doing that. They're not responding. And when you have a drought like in California, if that does affect agriculture, that's it. It's over. And people in California will be severely poor. We're going to see some bad news there. Finally, entrepreneurs offer alternative education that will become more valuable than what schools offer. Right? Things that you can learn online, you can learn online. All kinds of examples here. YouTube. I have friends who have taught themselves how to do mechanics with YouTube. Instead of going to a corrupt educational institution that charges you $20,000 to become a mechanic, no, they just learned on YouTube. And then they got a job, or they showed the mechanic, let's say locally, look, I can solve this problem and this problem and this problem. The mechanic's like, wow, and you don't even have certifications and blah, blah. Who cares? We'll bring you on anyway, right? So now they work there, and then eventually they become whatever the master mechanic level is. It's awesome, right? YouTube, promoted by entrepreneurs, just mechanics on YouTube showing you how to solve problems. Look at what it did. It's actually going to put a lot of colleges out of business before it's over with, which is excellent. Here's why. Because universities, some of them are engaging in blatant corruption. Not only are they funding stupid athletic programs, which are dumb, but they're limiting free speech. Look at these college campuses now that don't allow free speech. What is that about? I mean, free speech leads to free thinking, free ideas, which leads to solutions to problems. They're teaching propaganda. I call any unimportant information propaganda. Well, in the wild, wild west, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to know that. That's just irrelevant. Who cares? If it's unimportant information, it's propaganda. And then they simply are lying to students. One of my favorite examples of this is dating. I've had so many friends who have gone to school. They've taken classes on dating. And they have been single since taking that class. Why? Because they're not paying attention to what gets results, whether they're men or women, right? Dating is all about what the marketplace wants, right? If you don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a significant other, it's because you're not focusing on what gets results. And anybody who tells you otherwise is lying to you. The problem is what gets results is pretty simple in the sense that you just look at what the marketplace wants. That's all there is to it. If you're an unattractive guy, become more attractive. What happens? Blam! They get a girlfriend. Time and time again, I've seen this with my guy friends and my female friends. They respond to what the market wants and they immediately get a significant other. And it's like, well, there you go. You didn't even have to go to college to learn this. Whatever they're teaching in college, but what you need to do is this and this. And I'm just like, no, you just need to respond to the market. Right? If you're single, that means whatever you're doing is not working. And if you keep doing what doesn't work, you're going to keep getting what doesn't work. So the market is signaling, and Piketty, who supposedly is an economist, not really, he doesn't even understand basic economics. The reason why college costs are going up is because of these factors. what you're going to see is solutions to these problems going forward. We're already starting to see cheaper and cheaper education, by the way. Georgia Tech has a tech program. Of course, tech's in a bubble, but it's what, $6,600. You're going to see other solutions, right? You're going to see people on YouTube teaching how to weld, to where students don't have to go to college, and then they can go to a company and they can show them their skill, and people are like, oh yeah, who cares about certifications? That's the deal, right? All of these alternative educational programs, in the long run, in my opinion, are going to be way better than what's being offered in college anyway. Plus, they're not going to have all these hyper weird environments that currently is going on in college. So the market is signaling.